Good evening. I would like to call the February 23rd, 2015 Bellbrook City Council meeting to order. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mr. Edwards?
Here.
Mr. Greenwood?
Here.
Mr. Martin?
Here.
Mrs. Middlestetter?
Here.
Mrs. Seeger Lawson? Here. Deputy Mayor Schweller?
Here.
Mayor Bear?
Here. Formal approval of regular city council meeting minutes of February 9th, 2015. Does any member on council have any corrections to the additions to the regular city council meeting minutes?
None, Mayor.
No, Mayor.
None, Mayor.
Seeing none, the minutes are approved as written. Mayor's announcements. We have a couple things this evening. First, we have a new member of the new member? Planning board?
No, reappointment.
Reappointment, sorry. Mitchell Thompson. Would you, I cap it? We gotta find it. If you come up. We gotta, of course, find, here we go. Yeah. Mr. Thompson, thank you very much for getting on the planning board. And would you please repeat after me, raise your right hand. I solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio and will obey the laws thereof. I will, in all respects, uphold and enforce the provisions of the Charter and the ordinances of Bellbrook and will faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which I'm about to enter. Thank you very much. I just need a signature. No. Thank you very much. Thank you. Moving on, the only other thing we have today for mayor's announcements, we have our fire chief, Chief Neidhart. He's going to give a presentation on and give us our annual fire department report. Chief Neidhart.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and talk about the fire department in the year 2014. What you'll see is basically a shortened version of the material you've already gotten, hitting some of the highlights, and so I appreciate it. Here's some general information about the fire department. We have 7 career members. That's up from last year, because the chief last year was part-time and I'm full-time, so that's 1 more. 13 part-time members, again, I believe that's up from last year. We've been trying to fill some gaps in our schedule, so we've been actively seeking part-time people to do that. And then we have 8 volunteers. I would assume, I'd look at the number, that's down from last year. It's been difficult to find volunteers and keep them because of the responsibility for training and keeping their certifications up and all that kind of stuff. But we still are actively seeking them, so if you know anybody who's interested, please come down and talk to the fire department. We'll see if we can get them on. And then we have 7 resource members, and essentially those were subdivided out of our roster because they provide a lot of administrative support, but they don't actually go on calls and things. So this way we can have different expectations for trainings and things like that. So they were separated out of the roster. The department has 15 paramedics. We have 11 EMTs. There are 2 members that are on the Regional Critical Incident Stress Management Team, and we have 1 individual who is part of the Federal Urban Search and Rescue Team. So it's pretty diversified. We have a lot of people out providing help to the area and even nationwide as far as the Urban Search and Rescue Team. This is our vehicle, and we have a ladder truck that's up at Station 22, which is on Franklin. Also, the rescue is up there. We have 1 engine, that's our newest engine, that's up at that station as well. 3 staff vehicles, and we have a special rescue tactics and rescue trailer, and then the 3 medics. We have 2 up at Station 22, provides a backup, and 1 downtown here as well, and an engine. All right, so this year's accomplishments. As you can tell, I'm standing here and not somebody else. So that was a huge change for this department. One of the first ones to come from outside of the city and certainly outside of the fire department. Whenever you do that with an organization, and that person is somewhat unknown, as I might have been to many of them, it's very, it's nervous for them, a lot of energy, but at the same time, it's a little scary. So there was a transition period where they were trying to figure out what my expectations were. My leadership style is a little different from the previous chief. My expectations might have been a little bit different. And so I had to figure out the fire department as well. So we sort of did this honeymoon period over the year where we try to figure each other out. And let me tell you, the reputation of the Bellbrook Fire Department is outstanding in the area. I was aware of that from where I came from. And I was very excited to come here. When I got here and through this past year, a lot of times when you have expectations that high, when you get the reality of it, it's not quite as good. I can tell you in this part, it was fantastic. It was well beyond what I expected. And a lot of that has to do with Chief Hall and his expectations, and also with all the members of the fire department as well. That's what makes or breaks an organization, as you know. And in general, the city-wise, Mr. Schlagheck, the department heads, it's just a great group of people. It's a great city, so I'm really happy to be part of that. So that probably was the biggest change for the past year, but some other things happened. We had a new staff car we purchased. We replaced a 2000 Ford Expedition. It served its time well. It had some unique characteristics in its operating. So it was time to bring in something new. So we're lucky enough to get that staff car. The one that I was using originally went down to one of the captains, and we got rid of it for 2000. So that's what we open house, unbelievable. They told me about how crowded it would be. I was shocked at how many people were there. It's a fantastic event. There are a lot of fire departments that would be envious of that kind of turnout and that kind of opportunity to meet face-to-face with community members and also have a chance to teach them some fire safety. So it's a great event, and I'd like to take credit for it, but they've been doing it for years, so all I can say is I get to tag along with it, and we'll keep it going. So it's a really great thing. And that caps off a full week of talking with kids up through 5th grade about fire prevention and all that. It's a lot easier to prevent fires than to suppress fires once they start. So it's a really good program. Car seat checks. We did a one-day event where we saw 16 individuals to check their car seats and all that. Lieutenant Lukert's in charge of that, and he does a great job. 76 over the year total, which is a lot for one individual to handle on an every 3rd day basis. So my hat's off to him for making that happen. Again, it's another way to interact with the public in a positive light and also to provide safety. So it's a great program. So here is the run comparison for 5 years. You'll see we're up just a little bit, and except for 2011, I suspect it was due to the wind storm that year, as most fire departments saw a spike in their activity. And also, if you look at the biggest gain would be on the fire side, which would make sense with a windstorm kind of call volume that they'd see. This is runs by area. So we took the city and subdivided into smaller units. So if we need to pinpoint fire prevention or something like that, we have an area that we can look at. And you'll see area, I believe it's hard for me to see, 4, which is the downtown area is the busiest. I'm not sure I can explain why. I suppose if you put demographics over it or population density, you might be able to figure that out, but that's our busiest. And then the smallest area is our lowest, and that makes sense because it's the smallest area, so geographic area. These are our EMS incidents broken down. You'll see illnesses is the largest group. I would suspect that that's because that's a big open-ended question about I don't feel well, so lots of people say that, and so that's what we go out on quite a bit. And then injury would be next, which also makes sense. It's kind of a catch-all for different things that would be reasons for people to call. And here's our fire incidents, and you'll see that we provide a lot of mutual aid. I would suspect that all the departments in this area would have a high number of mutual aid as well, because none of us are big enough to handle usually fire incidents with any effectiveness with the amount of people and equipment we have. So we have to rely on each other, which is what we do, and then we provide that for other individuals. So you can kind of see how that's divided up. Calls for day of the week. If you'll notice, one thing I find interesting about the city is that it's very consistent. 65% of our runs here are EMS. Typically in a fire department, you have 75 to 80% of the runs are EMS. I can only speculate on why that might be. Part of it may just be the fact that there's not a lot of commercial here or industrial areas, so that the population stays very consistent. There's not spikes and people coming in out of town and all that. That's a guess, I don't really know, but if you'll notice, there's pretty equal bits of pie for everybody out there. So that's kind of unusual. You'll see Wednesday is the big night. I have no idea why. Friday and Saturday are runners up. And that's typically what you'll see in, from where I was from, Fridays and Saturdays were big. They had a lot of nighttime establishments where people came to, and they have more incidents, and so those sometimes spike as the popular day. I'm not sure what goes on Wednesdays, but we have a little bit more activity on those days. Same with time of day. There's equal bits of pie for everybody. 12 to 6 p.m. is our biggest. Again, typically what you'll see is around lunchtime and around dinner time will be the spikes. People going out to lunch and there's more activity. People coming home from work, cooking, all those kinds of things. Sometimes that'll generate more activities. Here, you can see the spike around dinner time. That might be part of that. So be interesting to see if we can delve into that and see, what might be the trigger for those. But that's what we get time of day. Every year, as you probably know, we have a Fire Association Awards dinner, and we had some special awards this year. You'll see the first one there is the 2014 Image Award, and that was given to David Stover. He was a longtime instructor at Sinclair, retired recently. He does a very good presentation on hybrid vehicle safety, and he kind of takes that show on the road. He's going to be have an article published in Firehouse Magazine at some point. But he goes in the area and he teaches that class. He's a really good ambassador for the fire department itself and the city, and he's a great employee as well. And then you'll see that the Robert Tobias Rookie of the Year, volunteer firefighter Amanda Current. When I started here, she was still in high school, but she would hang out at the firehouse and job shadow. And then once she graduated and was able to apply for a job, she became a volunteer, and she's gone gangbusters on her certifications. So we appreciate that kind of enthusiasm for the fire department. And then the Larry Gosnell Volunteer of the Year is Wes Williams. Wes Williams is a full-time firefighter in Huber Heights, and he's also our training officer. He does a really good job about organizing our training, getting the schedule ready, and he brings a lot of knowledge and experience from Huber Heights, and he goes on a lot of calls for us, like many of the volunteers that do it after hours. And he's a great asset to the fire department as well. We also have several members that are part of the military as well, and so these are the Patriot Award winners. For 12 years, we have Lynn Stokes Crow, 9 years for Ed Crow, 4 years for C.J. Klein, 2 years for Zachary Juniper, and one individual just left for training this year, Adam Watson. And so we really appreciate the fact they serve this community, and they also serve the country as well. So we're pretty lucky to have them. And I think that's it.
Does anyone on council have any questions for our fire chief this evening?
I don't think so. Great report, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you.
I really appreciate the report.
Thank you for
Brings a
the
lot to life.
opportunity to give the report and to be here as well. I really have enjoyed it. So.
Chief, the only comment I've ever had about these reports is there any real benchmarking we can do? And I was told before there really wasn't much out there, because I'd like to know, I mean, I appreciate your commentary about what your experience had been as far as Friday and Saturday nights and why Wednesday night and things like that. But I look at these reports sometimes, at the end of the day, I'm not sure what the real takeaways are. I mean, it's nice, I respect the fire
Sure.
department, you guys do a great job, but I didn't know if there's one or two things in here that's really unique about the report or unique about Bellbrook or.
And that's kind of what I was
something
saying as
above
far as like 65%
Yeah.
EMS versus a 75, or from where I came from, it was 78%. So I don't know if it's a comment on that place or if it's a comment on Bellbrook. Where I came from, they
Right.
had 7 nursing homes, so 30% of their EMS runs were nursing home runs.
Yeah.
So you take that out of the mix, and
Yeah,
maybe
right.
their percentage would be done. It's hard to do a Bellbrook because of the size and the
Demographics
makeup
too.
of it as well.
Yeah.
It's hard to compare that. We have some software now we might be get some further statistics out of that
Okay.
might ferret out some of that reasoning
Okay.
for it. You know, I wish I had an answer for you, but I don't. I can just speculate on what it might be based on my experience.
And that's what, Scott had said before, because I'd said, if we compare the stuff, and we say that, we do a much better job at this or a better job than that somebody else does. We said, there's nobody out there that's really just like us. It's we've always
Yeah.
just, taken it.
It's
I
pretty
appreciate the
unique,
report.
and I think that, I guess you'd have to find a place that has the mix also of commercial or
Right.
don't have any industrial, so.
Yeah.
Because I think that plays a role in how that population swells or goes down in
No, that's a
the
good
day
comment.
and the
You're right.
weekends,
You're right.
and
Okay.
it's very consistent. I've only been here a year, so I don't have a lot of experience with that kind of parts of the city, but that's just a guess.
Okay, thank you.
What are your concerns for the future? I mean, is there something that you want to make sure that you share with us about any kind of challenges that you might see in the
Yeah, I
next
would
year or so? or-
probably say staffing would be the challenge. It's a low staffing. This department relied a lot on volunteers to backfill when we had a call for that second call. We don't have that as reliably as we did in the past. So I would say if I were going to put my finger on one thing, it would be staffing and the numbers in staffing.
Why is it that we don't have as many volunteers as we had before?
We don't have as Washington Township where I came from. When I was there, they had 100+ volunteers, and the last volunteer coming from home went away last year. So it's not Bellbrook. I don't even think it's Ohio. I think it's just in general, the volunteerism is down in general. And I think the state requires more from firefighters to maintain their certification. Paramedics, EMT, all those things take hours of training. And people just don't have time for that is really what it comes down to, I think. And they found other ways that maybe don't take up their time as much to volunteer the free time that they might have. I mean, there's some commitment to that because you have to be available overnight, and it's on a set schedule, and some people, I think, can't deal with that. I mean, it is not a Bellbrook problem exclusively. So we're going to have to, I think that one of the things to look at is make some adjustments in our staffing to compensate for the fact that maybe we don't have as many people as we did before.
I'd like to comment that I think it's a testament to your leadership ability that you have integrated into the department as well as you have, and things are working as well, very well. I congratulate you on that.
Well, I appreciate that. I think a lot of that has come from the members who were here and were patient with me, and as I figured out what was what, and it's a great group of people really across the board. So
I would
feel
agree
very
with that.
fortunate. So, thank you.
Chief, with respect to some of the incidents that occur with people getting hurt, do you do any statistics on, is there a lot of one certain thing, or is there something we need to
The
make?
type
people-
of injury, you mean?
Type of injuries that's maybe
I'm
consistent?
hoping that the new software will be able to tell me that, but I can't get that from this one at this point.
You
And
know,
some
like-
places will do like safety checks for the elderly, like, they'll pull rugs, trip hazards and things like that. So You know, if we find that to be the case, you know, perhaps that's another program that we could offer citizens in the community. So, but that's a good question. I don't love to tell you. I don't have that answer.
Okay. I've just, I mean, is there,
I
off the
know
top
it's a
of your
big
head?
bucket of injuries and a big bucket of illnesses, and it's hard to get more specific than that.
There's not really a trend. I was looking for maybe trends or something, you know, like ladder accidents or getting shocked or something, you know.
Yeah,
that's-
I just don't have that answer. I'm hoping that maybe we could get that from the information as we go forward. Again, that wouldn't trend it. That would just be for that current year, for now.
Okay, thanks.
Chief, well, thank you very much. That was a very good presentation. We get a lot of respect for our fire department. I'd like to thank all those men and women too also. It's one thing in Bellbrook that we are really well known for and get a lot of great feedback from our residents. So thank you very much. Good presentation.
Yeah, and just the report, if you've looked back at prior years, they completely redid this report this year. I know Captain Bizarro spent a lot of time doing this and really took a step
very
back
nice.
from it and
Yeah.
tried to get some new information. And as the chief said, we have software that's starting January 1st of this year. We'll have more statistical information going forward, more historical information to compare it, things of that nature. But I think they've really take a step in the right direction in terms of the value of this report to people.
Yeah, nice report.
Thank you. Mark, will this report be on the website?
Yes.
If people, okay.
Yes,
So that's-
we
so
will-
so any citizen can take a look at it and
Absolutely,
come through.
absolutely.
Great.
We
Thank
will-
you.
We'll make it available, and if anyone has any questions, they can call here. They can call the fire department if they want any more information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. That is all I have for mayor's announcements and special guests this evening. Next, public hearing of ordinances, ordinance number 2015-1. Mr. Martin.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. City of Bellbrook ordinance number 2015-1, an ordinance amending Chapter 1610 of the Bellbrook Municipal Code, establishing the fire code enforced by the Bellbrook Fire Department. Whereas the City of Bellbrook has enacted Chapter 1610 of the Bellbrook Municipal Code, which is entitled Bellbrook Fire Department Unified Fire Code. And whereas the purpose of Chapter 1610 is to protect the peace, health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Bellbrook. And whereas Chapter 1610 Bellbrook Fire Department United Fire Code defines the addition of the fire code that has been adopted, and whereas the City of Bellbrook desires to update the fire code references in the municipal code. Now therefore, the City of Bellbrook hereby ordains, Section 1, that the following amendment to Chapter 1610 of the Bellbrook Municipal Code be approved with deletions shown by brackets and strike-throughs and additions shown by italics and underlines. And that is amending 1610.01, the 1994 edition adopted purpose is hereby amended. Section 1610.02, interpretation is hereby amended. Section 1610.99, penalty, equitable remedies, is hereby amended. Section 2, that this ordinance shall take effect and be enforced from and after the earliest period provided by law. And I believe, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, this really just basically codifies the Ohio Fire Code as promulgated at the state level into our local ordinances.
That's exactly right. What our previous code specifically adopted, the 1994 edition of the Ohio Fire Code. There's obviously been updates since that time. What this does is now say whatever the Ohio Fire Code as promulgated in the Ohio Administrative Code is the one that we're going to be adhering to. So it just clears that up, and then we won't have to take this type of action again the next time that the Ohio Fire Code changes.
Great.
Does any member on council have any questions?
No,
This is a public hearing, so if anyone in the audience has any comments or questions, please come up. I don't see anyone jumping up, so seeing that,
The podium?
Or even standing up.
seeing no one, I will call this public hearing closed. May I have a motion to approve ordinance number 2015-1?
So moved, Mayor.
May I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion by Mr. Martin to adopt ordinance number 2015-1 amending chapter 1610 of the Bellbrook Municipal Code, establishing the fire code enforced by the Bellbrook Fire Department. Seconded by Mrs. Middlestetter. Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Schweller?
Yes.
Mayor Baer?
Yes. We have one introduction of ordinance this evening, ordinance number 2015-2. Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Ordinance number 2015-2, an ordinance amending chapter 1042 of the Bellbrook Municipal Code relating to increasing the fees charged for tap-ins. Whereas the city of Bellbrook provides water service to customers in Bellbrook and certain areas of Sugar Creek Township. And whereas the city of Bellbrook charges a tap-in fee when development occurs. And whereas these tap-in fees are required for the long-term maintenance and improvement of the Bellbrook water system. And whereas the amount of this tap-in fee has not been increased since 2010. Now therefore, the city of Bellbrook hereby ordains, Section 1, that the following amendment to Chapter 1042 of the Bellbrook Municipal Code be approved with deletions shown by brackets and strike-through and additions shown by italics and underline. Section 1042.08 is hereby amended as follows. There's a whole series of meter sizes and tap-in fees that show a slight increase to those tap-in fees. Section A, that a tap-in connection fee of $3,000 per unit shall be charged for multi-family dwellings and for multi-unit businesses served by common entrances, regardless of the number of sizes of meters required to provide adequate service for the building. However, in the case of a multi-unit business building in which small offices share common restroom facilities and for which only 1 meter of 1 inch or more is required, the tap-in and connection fee shall be based on the size of the 1 meter instead of the fee per unit shown above, upon request by the building owner and the approval of the city manager. The number of sizes of the water meters required shall be commensurate with the usage and load of such establishment as determined by the city service director. Section 2, that this ordinance shall take effect and be enforced May 1st, 2015.
Yes, this is just setting this ordinance for public hearing, but it is increasing the tap fees slightly. Primarily, it's the tap fee for 3/4 inch or less meter is going from $2,800 to $3,000. So it's an increase of $200 per tap-in fee. And again, this tap-in fee has not been increased since 2010. So just trying to keep pace with inflation and the cost of maintaining the water system.
And this is an introduction, so we will have a public hearing on this. Is there any questions on council? I know we talked about this at a work session. Seeing none, may I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 2015-2.
I move that we introduce ordinance number 2015-2.
May I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Mrs. Seeger Lawson to introduce ordinance number 2015-2, amending chapter 1042 of the Bellbrook Municipal Code relating to the fees charged for tap-ins. Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Schweller?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes.
Mayor Baird?
Yes. Resolutions, we have one this evening. Resolution 2015-E. Mr. Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution number 2015-E, a resolution authorizing the city manager to advance sick leave to an employee. Whereas full-time employees of the city of Bellbrook are credited with sick leave in the amount of 120 hours per year, and whereas employees are permitted to use this sick leave for injury or illness, and whereas an employee has used their entire allotment and balance of sick leave for medical reasons, and whereas the city of Bellbrook desires to advance sick leave to this employee to keep them in paid status, now therefore the city of Bellbrook hereby resolves, Section 1, that the city manager is hereby authorized to advance sick leave to an employee in the amount not to exceed 160 hours. Section 2, that this advanced sick leave will be repaid by the employee using their future credit allotment. Once the advanced sick leave has been repaid, the employee shall begin to accrue sick leave credit. Section 3, that this resolution shall take effect and be enforced for a period of 60 days.
Yes, this resolution, we discussed in executive session, the employee that this impacts. We do have an employee that unfortunately has used their sick leave due to medical reasons, and at this point, we're not clear when that employee will be able to return to work. If this employee has used all their leave, so if they are not advanced any sick leave, they will no longer be in paid status. So this allows me to advance up to 160 hours of sick leave to this individual to at least keep them in paid status until a little bit more information is known about the future prognosis of what is going to happen in their hopeful return to work, where they can begin to repay this back and continue working as a normal employee would. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about that if you have them.
Anyone on council have any questions?
No, Mayor.
I think a lot of our questions were answered in the executive session. I just didn't want anyone to think that we weren't talking about it.
Yes. We did have a lot of questions. Seeing that, may I have a motion to adopt resolution 2015-E?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2015-E.
May I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion by Mr. Edwards to adopt resolution number 2015-E, authorizing the city manager to advance sick leave to an employee. Seconded by Mr. Greenwood. Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes.
Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Schweller?
Yes.
Mayor Baird?
Yes. Moving on, city manager report.
Yes, just a couple items this evening. First, last time we had an extensive discussion about the cell tower and the options that were before us. Just to give you a little update on that, one of the proposals had come from PowerPoint Capital. I've spoken further with them. They basically confirmed their offer still, and then they gave a couple other options where the purchase price would be at a higher amount, but it would be over a period of time. So it would be a payment over a 3-year or a 5-year period, but they would add additional money to that, obviously, because they would get the benefit of not having to pay that all out front. And then I had one conversation with Crown Castle, who is the existing leaseholder, to try to get a little better understanding of the situation. They were going to call me back on a question that we had that I have not received that phone call back. But the way this works and the way that the other company, TowerPoint, would work, if they bought the lease, they would obviously get the lease money going forward that we're collecting today. What that lease is they have a ground lease around that tower, and including the tower, and that's where whatever carrier has their facilities that they, everything that the antenna's on the tower, but there's facilities that they have on the ground there. TowerPoint, what their statement is they could lease another piece of ground around that tower to somebody else, and that's where we would get additional rent from. But then that carrier would still have to negotiate with Crown Castle because it's their tower. They can't put anything on there without Crown Castle's approval. So there'd be a dual payment type thing there, which I don't really see that would be feasible. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense that somebody's going to want to do that. So I think ultimately our best bet is to go back to Crown Castle, who has the lease, who has the ground lease. In fact, they have additional space that they can use in the future of a ground lease because they paid us for that, and have them market the tower. The question I had was, in the lease agreement, it appears to say that the first carrier you get $12,000 per year. Obviously, we've got that. If there's an additional carrier, you get another $1,000 per month. The contract seems to state that it doesn't matter if there's 1 or 10 additional carriers, we still get $1,000 per month. And that's what they're clarifying. That, depending on the interpretation, that's what I was trying to get their interpretation. If the interpretation is that that's what it is, and I think Mr. Martin brought this up, these are 5-year increments of the lease. The next time that lease is up is in 2017. I think then we attempt to renegotiate something with them, because as it stands now, if it's interpreted one way, they could put 10 more antennas on there, we would get no more money than we're getting today. And that obviously has no benefit to us. So that's something that I'm waiting to hear the answer of that. But I think, based on other conversations I've had with other municipalities that have looked into that, I would not recommend going with the lump sum option, but I think that what I'm going to do is continue to work with Crown Castle and see if we can make sure that if we get other providers on there, that we get a financial benefit from doing that. So that's sort of where that stands right now, unless anyone has any other thoughts on that. That's how I'm gonna pursue it from this point forward. Last time, we also talked about the water service area agreement with Greene County for that area behind the Walmart Staples area. I do have a verbal agreement with the Greene County Administrator that for any taps that would be in that area, we will pay them $1,300. So we sort of split the difference between the $1,200 and $1,400. So I think we came out ahead there slightly. So I'm working on some amendment language to get to them for legal review. And then obviously that will have to come back to you to formally ratify here in the future. But I think we have at least come to a verbal agreement on that, and we can quit talking about that, have a long-term agreement with the county, and just move forward, and everyone will be fine. And then finally, and I mentioned this in my memo to you, the annual street program. We go every year. We bid jointly with Greene County. They do a bid for anyone interested in the county. So we have to provide what we're anticipating the streets to be, so that they can bid those, and that is currently out to bid. But the streets for the 2015 street program are going to be Barrow, a portion of Bledsoe Drive and Gary Drive, and then we're going to do Washington Mill Road, and we're going to do the portion of West Franklin between Little Sugar Creek and not quite the Vemco, but where they did those water main taps. We're going to do that. The Little Sugar Creek intersection got redone when they put the signal in. Everything to the west got redone a couple of years ago. There's this gap of pavement there that needs some work on that we're gonna include in that. A portion of the Washington Mill is actually some of the stuff on the east side of the road is actually Greene County, so they're going to reimburse us for a portion of that road. But that entire stretch of Washington Mill to the city limits will be done. So we should be getting bids back in early March, and then again there'll be action for council to take here probably in March or April to formally approve that 2015 street program. And that is all I have this evening.
Does anyone on council have any questions for our city manager this evening?
Just-
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I just have one, Mark. I know we've got a different snow removal plan this year, and I know we've only had, one big snowfall this past weekend of what we had in November. Have we had any complaints about it? It seems like it's working pretty good, to be honest with you.
I have received no complaints at all.
Well, I was,
Oh,
well, you
well,
should
maybe-
say that.
Yeah, maybe I'm gonna get one here in a
You know,
second.
again, we've only got a couple data points, but it seemed like this weekend, I don't know if you're familiar with where I live, down at the bottom of the hill there with Lakeview and Marcia. And so it's kind of critical that, it gets plowed in a timely manner, otherwise nobody on the bottom of the hill there can leave. I ended up doing the hill with my snow thrower, so people could leave, could get up the hill, so.
Okay.
I think we kind of need to, and again, I understand the timing when it's snowing, you can only be so many places so often.
Right, and I know they have.
Seemed a little
Okay.
behind the power curve.
I will check on that. I mean, I do know that when it's snowing, obviously their priorities are the main thoroughfares that they have to get done, but they do know that there are certain hills within the community that you can't get up and down if they don't do them. So I'll check and see, what, just let them know that there was an issue there that they need to, and maybe see what the situation was.
Okay.
But I think for the most part, I have not received complaints generally, and we had a couple snows last week.
I was
So-
actually gonna read the letter that we got, so.
Oh, okay, yeah, and then I know Mr. Wilson gave you some information also, so, in the service report, they can talk a little bit more about that.
Okay.
That was a weekend too. Did he? Probably didn't use full staff, did they?
Well, we only have 3 trucks,
That's
Three
what I'm
trucks.
saying.
yeah, and we really wouldn't have done any more even if it had been during the day, because we only have, we bring in 3 people to run, we have 2 big trucks. Well, actually, we have 3, but I mean, we don't use the third one as often, and then we have a smaller truck that we do, some of the areas in the downtown that we can't use the big trucks in, so, we just don't have the equipment, even if we had the manpower to do some of that sometimes, unfortunately. And I know, like the bike path, I know even, when I came in this morning, it had not been cleared, because that's not a priority to use overtime on the weekend, but then they'll get to it today, things like that.
Any other questions for our city manager?
I'm glad that we're looking at the cell tower situation again, because my initial impression was there has to be something really good there for this company to make that kind of a bid up front. So, what do they see that we're not seeing that makes that a valuable asset?
Right, and
Offer, purchase for, and I'm sure you looked at it from that perspective.
And I put out a request to other cities within the state, and just to see if anyone had some experience, and most of them sort of echoed that, as if they're offering that much money, then it's probably worth more than that type thing. But that's probably true to a point, but at some point the value isn't there.
Yeah.
So it's trying to find that magic point that
Find what
says,
that value is.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I've talked to a few people that's in the business, and it's kind of like finding a lot to build a house on, you know. They do have a lot more new gadgets coming on, the plug-ins, you know, kind of like a Mr. Potato Head, you know, you change it, plug whatever you want on it. And that changes all the time, you know, with technology. So, you know, the cell phones, and then a lot of people are getting the where you have your service anywhere you're at, and that has to take cell tower gadgets. So that's what's driving, they say that's what's driving a lot.
well, and Wi-Fi, I have to believe, you know, there's a lot of places now that you can use Wi-Fi to make your calls and stuff like that, and cell becomes less of an issue. And the other thing, if you drive down there, Ernst Concrete, up on the hill, they have a cell tower that looks like it has a single antenna, but it sits significantly higher than what ours does because of its location.
Right.
So if somebody's gonna, you know, I don't know who makes the decisions. Obviously, it's a financial decision and it's a coverage decision, but we're not the only tower in the area. For a long time, I think we were, but that one is certainly available too.
Yep. Well, thank you for watching out
We'll
for those things.
keep you updated as we move.
Moving on, we have committee reports. Service?
I was going to read a letter. We had someone write into the website. I thought I'd just leave off the name. I don't know if they intended that or not, but it says, as a resident of Bellbrook, I would like to commend our road department on the excellent job of maintaining our roads in the winter. I drive many roads to and from work, and Bellbrook has the best snow removal by far. This is why I always vote for road service as well as police and fire levies at election time. Thank you for those that stay up at night so that I can go to work in time. I also have some statistics that Joe Wilson sent me. We've had 17 days of winter events. We've accumulated approximately 26 inches of snow in August. We have spent, we have used 285.74 tons of salt. And after understanding from Dale, is that now all the salt that we had stored outside is now inside. So that's good.
I think today, so we literally moved it today. It was the first time we've been able to move it, but yeah, so it's now all inside now.
Any questions on council for our service? Safety,
Nothing tonight, man.
finance and audit,
Mayor, nothing to report this evening.
community affairs. I would just once again like to thank our new committee person for our planning board for once again volunteering. That is a very important committee. Moving on, old business. Does any member on council have anything for old business? New business. It looks like we have one item on the agenda this evening. A motion authorizing the city manager to solicit bids for the water main extension and downtown replacement project.
Yes, this is a project we've been talking about here for a while now. We did receive some Ohio Public Works Commission grant dollars. This is a water main extension and replacement project. I have two maps here. It's going to be hard for me, but I'll try to show you where it is. So up here at the top is Big Tree, and then this is Ridgeway here. So right at this point, in Bellbrook, we have two water systems. We have a low pressure and a high pressure system. The old downtown area is served off the low pressure system, and the rest of the community is served off the high pressure system. That high pressure system sort of goes in a loop heading out west once you leave downtown, and it comes all the way around and then ends up coming down Upper Bellbrook Road, and it terminates just at about Ridgeway Road. In this plat up here, Ridgeway Big Tree is served by the high pressure, but it's never been extended any further past that point. So what we are proposing to do is hook onto that high pressure system right there at Ridgeway. It'll go down Main Street, in the pavement, all the way down Main Street, and then once it gets down to where our salt barn is, right here, that alley between where the Cabinet Dyer cabinet place is and the salt barn, there's an alley. And then here's our fire station on the north and the service center here. It's going to go down through the alley. It's going to go down for a section of Northwest Street there in front of the old Legion, the Bellhop Cafe. And then it's going to go through the parking lot area of the plaza there. It's hard to tell on this, but there are, in all these, these are all old alleys is what they are. So we have the right-of-way to do this. So this is going to go through here, and then just on the west side of the funeral home, there's another old alley that's going to come down, and just in the alley that's between, or right by the lawn mowing shop, when we did the project with actually Little Sugar Creek intersection, we ran some water main, and then there's a four-way valve there that's capped on the north side that we're going to tie into. What this will do is provide a complete loop to our high-pressure water system, which we don't have today. The total project cost on this is just under $463,000. The grant has been approved at about $342,000, so the local share of this is only $120,000 for this project. The actual construction estimate of that, there are other costs, obviously engineering in that, is just over $400,000. What I'm asking for tonight is the authorization to go out to bid. With that, we would put the bid out here later this week. The bid opening would be scheduled for March 19th. We would, within the documents, we say that the construction cannot start until June 1st, and that's primarily because we don't want to disrupt the school traffic on North Main Street here. So we're waiting until school is out. The completion date is set for August 18th, which is the day before school starts. So whether or not they can get it all done in that time, at least what we want them to be able to do is get the portion of work on North Main Street done before school comes back in. Our other concern, this alley is somewhat of a concern, but in the plaza, parking lot there, that's a concern too. We know we have in the bid specs that they have to work with the business owners and that they have to make sure everyone's aware of when things will be open and closed. This won't be something that they're going to dig this entire thing, open up the entire parking lot, and no one can go through. We're going to have them do it in sections so that they can phase it in, and everyone will have access to the businesses throughout the time. They may have to go a different way. There's a lot of different ways in and out of there, but they will have access to those businesses. So, like I said, the completion date in the bid specs is scheduled for by August 18th, and then we will have a complete loop of our water system.
And having the complete loop, does that help with water pressure? I mean, I guess it makes it redundant so that you can serve it from either side? Or?
That's the biggest thing, is redundancy, because, and I guess we can talk about it more now since we're getting a loop here, but the reality is this water main comes up this alley here, and it goes out, and right at the bridge at Little Sugar Creek, and along that stretch there is a 12-inch water main that is the only feed to the entire system out there. And if something happens, we have water in the water towers that can sustain us for a period of time, but beyond that, we have no way to get water into that system there, other than cross-connecting to Greene County, things of that nature. So what this does is allow another way to get the water into the system. It can go the other way if need be to the towers and keep the system operational. So, okay. And there will actually be a third connection when Highview Terrace continues to develop. When they develop their next section, there will be one. They own the land just adjacent to Dots there, and there will be a water main that will actually come down and connect into the water system there. So there'll be a third way to get water out, and we'll have a much better protection than what we've ever had in the past.
What about the low pressure system? Is that a complete loop already?
Yes, I mean it's as good a loop as you can get. I mean there are places that have low water pressure, particularly the Upper Hillside plat is probably the lowest pressure in the entire system. Because of the height that they're at versus the pressure that's going to them, and that's something
highest point
on the low pressure system. Okay. And that's something that we're looking to address in a future project. Now that this is here, and if where it comes in up there off North Main Street, we can run off the high pressure system into the Upper Hillside plat in the future, and then that we can take away from them being on the low pressure system and hopefully increase their pressures within their house.
Any other questions? If not, may I have a motion authorizing the city manager to solicit bids for the water main extension and downtown replacement project?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
motion by Mr. Schweller to authorize the city manager to solicit bids for the water main extension and downtown replacement project, seconded by Mrs. Seeger Lawson. Mr. Schweller?
Yes.
Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes.
And Mayor Barry?
Yes. Open discussion. Anyone on council have any open discussion?
Yeah, just a side note on the recent snow event. I'd like to commend our city for but I noticed that there seem to be quite a few cars parked on streets, and I would like to ask our citizens if possible, if they could park their cars in the driveways and make some street. Having 4 cars in my driveway at one time, I couldn't remember. I understand it could be a problem. But in my little
Fourth, anyone speaking? Mr. Martin?
Indians drive their lucky, shovel it out, but throw that smoke on the side, not that.
It's even worse if you're on a corner like me.
Well, I
so.
should say, being on the inside of the corner around the curve, my driveway is perfectly placed. They come around the corner, they pick up all the extra snow from the curb, and then the first place it straightens out is at my driveway.
Yeah, they do the best they can.
I have
to
to
do
I don't
that.
think-
Yeah, there's no way.
It's just unfortunate they have to go somewhere, and if you keep it at least on the far side of the driveway, don't put it back on the near side because it'll end up just back in front of the driveway, but that's about the only thing you can do.
Just for folks to be alert that it makes things travel.
Mike?
Nothing like that.
I think I only have a couple things. Lions Club, there is a pancake and breakfast and blood drive this Saturday, 7:30 to 11:30 at Stephen Bell. I know we must be in need of blood again because I know my wife is a very positive type of blood that she had a message today. So anyone interested, that is at Stephen Bell for pancake breakfast and blood drive. And that is all I have, and we can open it up to our audience. Is there anyone out there who would like to come up? I'm not seeing anyone jump up. I do see a Boy Scout out there. Of course, I always get to pick on them. Would you like to come up and explain why you're doing here, or what badge you're working on this evening? Just tell his name and we'll give you a...
Well, I'm Reese Shantz. I'm from Troop 162, and right now I'm working on the Citizenship in the Community Merit Badge. And one of the requirements is to visit a meeting and just watch it. So yeah, that's fun here.
All right, what'd you think?
It was interesting to just watch because I've never been to anything like this before. So yeah.
And you can go home and watch yourself on TV tonight, because it'll play over and over again.
Watch yourself on TV for 2 weeks.
Yeah, for 2 weeks.
Do you have any questions for us?
No, I don't think so. Thank you.
Well, thank you
Thank
for
you.
attending, and hopefully we'll see you back again sometime.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Louis, you have anything? I'd like to thank Louis, our studious cameraman this evening, who we probably put under undue stress since we didn't quite make the start time of the meeting this evening because of our executive session.
He had to actually come find the council to tape.
Yeah, he had to find one. Does any other member on council have any other business to come before us this evening?
No, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.